Hello, hello, happy Monday. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. I am the host, Mandie Brice, and this is episode 143. I altered the order of my episodes just a little bit because this intro and even this interview are being recorded on Friday, February 16th, which is just a couple days after another mass school shooting here in the United States. And I am not going to get political with this, but I will say that after these mass shootings occur, I get very sad and spend kind of half a day just consuming myself with news and crying and reacting, and I'm not even as affected as obviously someone who's actually experiencing it or family and friends of the victims. So the guest today is Faith Lucille, and the reason why I brought her forward and made her message more urgent is because she is the author of If You Need to Smile. And as I mentioned to her in our interview, I think all of us really need to smile. We really, really need to smile. So I wanted to bring her on right away so that you could hear her story. She's super bubbly, high energy, and we had a great time chatting. So I hope that you really like it. And of course, stay tuned to the end because she is generously donating 2 copies of her book to 2 lucky winners. So I guess 1 copy each, not one for you and a friend for 2 people. But 2 lucky winners will win copies of If You Need to Smile, and I hope that the rest of you, if you need to smile, will buy it on Amazon and give her the feedback she's seeking on it, or gift it to someone because, like I said, I think we all really truly need to smile badly. All right, without further ado, here is Faith Lucille. Hello, everyone. I am with Faith Lucille. Welcome so much to the Bold Moves podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, of course, you know that the show is called Bold Moves, and you wouldn't have been invited on here if you hadn't made some. So why don't you share with our listeners? I like it, celebrate. Why don't you share your story and a little bit about you and the bold moves you've made with our listeners or viewers?
All right, well, I want to start off by saying I wrote a book. It's called If You Need to Smile, and here's a little peek at it. I wrote a book starting when I was 15. They ended up being little quotes and small things that made me laugh. I used to write stuff down because it made me help remember the moment. I have a horrible memory. Uh-huh. So one day somebody asked me after 12 years of writing these quotes what I was going to do with them. And I was like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And I actually had no intention of doing that. But then mixing that in with the fact that I work with elderly people in a nursing home / assisted living facility, they kind of lit my butt on fire as far as needing to get myself out there, follow my dreams the way I wanted to do them sooner rather than later, because they always said how many regrets they'd have. So I wrote, edited, and published the book in 2 months, and it's kind of going pretty far. I only wanted to sell 5 books, and I sold 100 so far, and I'm still going. So,
wow, that's awesome. So the actual putting together of the book and editing and publishing you did in 2 months, but it's really, would you say, 12 years worth of things you've been kind of collecting?
Yeah, I only used about half of the quotes that I had in these 2 rattled notebooks. I would run to these notebooks whenever I wanted to write something down that made me laugh. Okay. And I would stick little pieces of paper in there, so I'd have to organize it. And I still have some more. I'm working on a second book, but just the fact that I got to do it is my life's work. And if I die in a fiery blaze, I'm not going to be upset. I'm morbid. I'm sorry. The byline of my book is a dose of laughter for my sick world, because I'm partially sick with my humor.
Well, now I'm really intrigued. First of all, I guess I hope you don't die in a fiery blaze anytime soon. I mean, we all die someday, which I'm sure you're well aware. But I think most of us would prefer it's later as opposed to sooner. And second of all, that's really cool about the second book. Are you still writing them in notebooks, or are you kind of more saving them on your phone so you don't have to wait until you get home or something like that now that technology makes it easier?
I usually put them on my phone, but if I don't have my phone, I'll grab a piece of toilet paper, I'll grab a piece of wax paper, whatever I can get my hands on, or even if it's my hand, I'll write it down, anything nearby, because if I can't forget it, like once I write it down, it's solidified in my mind, so I can elaborate on the joke.
Yeah.
But if I don't write it down, or I can't remember exactly what somebody said, I won't put it in the book because I'll lose the moment, you know?
Sure.
I'm all about capturing the moment.
That's amazing. It looks at least like the outside has some illustration. Are there illustrations on the inside as well, or is it all writing?
It's all writing. There's short little snippets, like little tiny stories followed by a quote, or vice versa, of a little thing that happened in my life. And then I try to bring the reader into what I felt at that moment. So I did have some illustrations in my book, the original one, but I didn't know how to put them on paper. I have to figure that process out because it can go in the second book.
Sure, maybe for the sequel. That's awesome. So who would you say your book is for? Who's your ideal reader?
My ideal reader is definitely people that, number one, like to laugh and enjoy like the small things in life. Number two, if somebody has been upset or depressed or they're going through something, I'd like to say it's an uplifting book because it makes me happy. I used to read my own book when I was younger, when I was upset. And even if I didn't want to laugh, I end up doing that. It kind of changed my mood around.
Sure.
And I was hoping to give that to other people. Like, part of me wants to just give these books away because, like, it does work. People keep telling me how much it, like, uplifted them. And it's not necessarily inspirational, but it's funny. Everybody has something in the book that they like more than the other person. It kind of caters to different people.
That's got to be fun to hear different people's reactions and favorite parts to what you've spent so much time collecting and writing. That's very cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a unique experience. I'm still waiting on more feedback on my Amazon page, but the fact that people will be like, oh, you're the one who wrote the book, or like, yeah, I saw your book somewhere else. I couldn't figure out where it was. And like, if they read the book and they tell me their feedback, good or bad, it helps me improve my writing.
That's great. It's a great attitude to have. Your concept kind of reminds me of when I was a middle school teacher. One teacher that had taught for a long time was helping me out at the beginning, and she said, you need to keep a sunshine folder. And she said, anytime a kid gives you a thank you note or says something sweet to you or something, put it in a folder, because there are going to be days where there's no sunshine and you need to look at that. So it's like the same concept as what you have, but for life instead of specifically teaching. I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think everybody should do that because they can, like, their own folder, they know what makes them happy. So if they put their own ideas in, that's gold right there.
Absolutely. It always has it to never let you down. Very cool. You mentioned that your day job is working at a nursing home and assisted living facility, and that part of the motivation behind finally getting this done instead of carrying around notebooks for just you was the people that you work with who are telling you, they have regrets and so on. What are some other lessons that you've learned from the people that you work with?
I've learned a lot of stuff. First off is to be honest, because you can see a lot of people in the elderly age regret the fact that they weren't honest with people. Didn't tell them what they thought was a good idea for them or not. Also, to take life as it comes, like, don't rush through stuff, which I have a bad habit of doing. I rush through everything, and I'll be driving down like a highway and like not enjoying the scenery. Like, I have to get there, and it's not conducive to like help you have a better life. Enjoy the things around you.
Yeah, but be present.
They teach me to slow down and breathe the flowers in. Just take time with life and appreciate every facet that it has, because there's so many things in life that we take for granted.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your life, more, with how you kind of came along this path to the job you're in now, your family situation. I know you're in the Boston area. Just a little bit more about your story.
So first off, I'm a wife and I'm a mother of two. They're 1 year old and 6 years old. I
Congratulations.
worked. Thank you. I worked in a nursing home for 5 years. That was in Webster, Massachusetts, and that's before I worked in a nursing home environment. I really did not like stay at a job for more than 6 months at a time because I didn't like it. I didn't want to sell people things. I didn't like the fact that I had to like push people to buy a product or something that I didn't necessarily either believe in or that I didn't think that you absolutely needed.
Right.
So, and most of the jobs that are out there are sales jobs. You're trying to push something. But when I worked in a nursing home, I was an activities assistant. So I got to have a lot of fun with the residents
That
and
sounds
get paid for
amazing.
it. Yeah. So like I would run exercise, we would do entertainment programs, and I'm kind of bubbly, I guess you would say. So like I like
I've
bouncing around the
noticed.
room. I like dancing with the residents. I like playing games and like especially joking. Like I love joking with residents back and forth. Like they're clever. They have no inhibitions. So after I left the nursing home, I got a job at an assisted living facility, which I just left 2 weeks ago to focus full time on my writing.
Okay.
But it was eye opening. My boss really let me take the reins as far as planning some activities that I wanted to do, and that's what people really made me feel like I should do something about this book, because people would say like something funny and they'd be like, "Are you going to write it down? Are you going to write it down, or is it going in your book?" And
Yeah.
people kept talking about it so much that I was like, well, besides that question somebody asked me, what are you going to do with all these quotes? I was like, well, maybe something really could come of it. And people were following up with me, and it kind of made me like, okay, they're paying attention. I should probably do something about this. And that's when I got the ball rolling. I got sucked in, and I couldn't stop until it was done. It almost killed me. I was in the hospital a couple times.
Oh no, why?
Heart problems and anxiety. Like I thought I was dying one day, and my heart was beating really fast. The ambulance came, and I mean, I already have sinus tachycardia, which is just like a fast heartbeat, but it was mostly anxiety. So I've gotten it under control now.
Good.
I try to do things easily. As long as I'm fed, I'm good. Like feed me.
Your hanger gets escalated. You get hangry.
Yeah. I think that phrase was like meant for me. Like somebody just saw me one day and saw that I was like angry and hungry, and they were like, she looks hangry, and just I should be in the dictionary, Urban Dictionary. My name, right?
Your picture.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe that can be book 3 is hangry quotes.
Maybe. I'm trying to think of the byline for the second one, but the book title is going to be If You Need to Smile More. And then I'm thinking of the byline being maybe 7 shades of sunshine. That's really hard to say. And like have like a weird, funny word in between to kind of make it like twist a little bit, like 7 shades of freaking sunshine or something. I don't know.
I like it. That's cute.
I want to make sure it's like a bright book that people can grab, because I mean, you can't really get brighter than this.
That's pretty bright. And I notice you have it Post-it flagged. You got tons of notes there. Is that feedback you've gotten, or notes you're taking yourself on it, or what do you have bookmarked there?
The bookmarks are for like different points in the book where I've pinpointed like a good point to read. If you haven't read some snippets or like the introduction, you'll understand some of these ones that I have marked without reading the rest of the book.
Okay.
So it's just my go-to, you know?
Little standout sections, because you said you didn't say, I guess, but I read that you've had a couple of book signings at local bookstores and stuff.
Yeah,
so I was at for that.
I what?
You've been using those selected readings for those, I assume.
Yeah, I learned my lesson the first time. I was at Book Lovers Gourmet in Webster, and there were people there, like not too many, like not many showed up, but I was reading random points. I was like flipping through the book. I was like, I have to find the right one. And I was like, and eventually the next one I was at Annie's Bookstop in Worcester, and I kind of was like, I'm going to pre-mark them. And it actually served me a lot better. Like it was a smoother transition.
Sure.
I'm going to be at Barnes & Noble on March 3rd in Millbury. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because that's like a big event, you know?
Sure. Well, if anybody is listening and this is going to go out before then, if you are around the Boston area, where did you say it is? March 3rd, what time?
March 3rd between 12 and 5,
Okay.
and free in Massachusetts.
Awesome. I'll make sure that in the show notes it has all of that information so that anyone listening on the East Coast that's nearby can come and say hi.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. And I totally get what you're saying about the tagging things so that you can go quickly, because that's the exact reason why I ask ahead of time to think of your favorite book recommendations, because the first time that I asked someone without giving them a heads up, there was a lot of and I realized that if I had to answer that myself without any preparation, I would probably do the same thing. So that's why all the time I'm like, most of our conversation is going to be about you and your story and probably not require too much thought, but if you have the books planned out, that helps. So, of course, you recommend your own book. We should all check that out. And you also said you would be willing to give a couple copies away to some lucky readers, which is awesome and I appreciate. But aside from your book, what are some of your favorites that you think other people should read?
I have my favorite right now is called Maybe in Another Life. It's by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I like this book because it kind of takes a girl through a life. And if you have a problem with being decisive in relationships like I have been in the past, you kind of wonder what would be on the other side if I chose the other guy. And it's literally every other chapter, it switches between her two lives. Oh. And I'm not going to give away it's different. I'm not going to give the ending away, but it's a very, very good read for somebody that is having trouble in a relationship or having trouble committing because they're afraid something's better on the other side. The grass is greener effect.
Right.
So I highly recommend this one.
Okay.
And I've been reading the Left Behind series. I'm not sure of the author's name, but it's very famous. Nicolas Cage did a movie on Left Behind.
Okay.
Like The Rapture, but I like it. It's interesting, even if it doesn't really follow exactly what could happen. Or
sure.
I do recommend that one. It's interesting to see different religions and like what they believe and everything.
Yeah. Cool.
So I recommend that one.
Those sound interesting. And again, that will also be in the show notes. If anybody is like running on a treadmill or down the street or something and can't write them down, they can find them that way. So you mentioned that you recently, it seemed like you had kind of found a great path working with senior citizens and that you've loved that for over 5 years until you recently quit your job. Congratulations, by the way, to focus on your writing. Absolutely. So you could know the answer, you could not know, and for a lot of people this changes over time, but I'm curious if you know your purpose, and if so, what you think your purpose is right now.
Well, that's a good question. That's very insightful. I think my purpose is to make people happy. Once I got into my job as an activities assistant, I was happy. I was going to work. I was making other people happy without realizing it. And people would tell me, like, you're doing good at your job. And I don't want to be conceited about it, but I do notice that I'm in my element when I'm with the elderly and giving them something to do. Or even at this last job that I was in, my assisted living job, I learned how to do lectures and I'd pre-study things. And I don't know, it made them happy. So I want to hand my book out to everybody else. I like to make a fool of myself in public. I don't know. I don't know what I can do with that. Another thing is I want to help kids that are in abusive situations. I was going to donate 10% of my next book to a charity, Ashton Kutcher's charity, because he rescues kids from sexually violent situations. So when I get that off the ground, I'm going to make sure to include the fact that it's going to be a portion of it donated to charity.
That's awesome.
I hope that. Thanks. I mean, I wish I could do something about that, because it really, whenever I see a kid or hear about that story, I cry every time, and it kills me inside that nothing's being done about it. Not as much as I'd like, you know?
Sure. I agree completely. But even if you sell 10 books and you can donate $10, let's say, you're going to be able to, you will be making a difference. So every little bit counts. And that's awesome that that's going to be part of your focus for the next one. And if anyone's listening and has a contact with Ashton Kutcher, they should probably send this his way so that he can maybe help you promote it even more, because that sounds like a great connection possibly too.
I didn't even think of that.
You got to
I
find his publicist and send him a copy, make sure that he knows, and, or get like Ellen to talk about it or something. Are you writing it down?
Yeah, I'm going to write it down. If I can find a paper. Okay, here we go. I didn't even think about contacting Ashton Kutcher about that. That's actually a great idea. You're very insightful. I contacted Ellen, but I haven't heard back from her yet. I didn't include the bit about the trying to help kids. I just kind of introduced my book, but I feel like that might help a little bit,
Sure. Well, for the second one, you can contact her again, and the worst thing that can happen is either they'll say no or you'll never hear back from them, and you're still in the same position you're in now. So it can't really hurt.
That's very true. That's a positive way to look at it.
Absolutely. Nothing terrible can happen out of this. Speaking of terrible things, or not necessarily terrible. Well, you mentioned that you were rushed to the hospital recently when you were putting your book together from the anxiety, and that your heart was racing, and that sounds very scary. I'm wondering what the scariest thing you've ever been through is.
Oh, it's not going to be the normal for probably the audience, but so I was 21. I think I was 21. Yeah, and I was babysitting at this lady's house. I won't say her name, but she lived in Dudley, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And she lived kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like there was a house like 100 feet away, and there was no signal. She had no curtains in the windows, and I was with my infant son and babysitting her son, who was 7. And I heard the screen door open, and I'm naturally sensitive to areas where people can intrude on the house, because I almost got kidnapped when I was younger. Okay. But I opened the door and I saw the carpet rumpled up, like somebody had just tried to run out of the house really fast, and it wasn't rumpled when I came in. So, and then later on I heard the doorknob jiggling, and I didn't hear anything else after that, but I felt like there's something that was happening. I called my brother over, and usually he's like, Faith, you're being paranoid. I'm not coming over there to help. Like, you have to grow up. And this is my little brother.
Yeah.
He's helped me a lot through paranoia from after when I was a kid. But anyways, he came over anyway, and I'm so glad he did, because when I got home after the kid's mother came home, apparently they tried to break in and get her and the kid. Like they were opening all the doors. She was calling the cops, and they were trying all the doors, and then they never found him. But apparently they had been sitting right where I was for more than a couple hours at night, and they were trying to pry open the lock. They had a stool. There were footprints. You could see their fingerprints on the windows. So I have children now. I hate.
So do I. Oh my goodness.
I don't know why I've been prone to a lot of situations when I was younger, almost being kidnapped. One was on my 7th birthday. So that was the most terrible thing that I can remember being most scared about. So, ugh.
Oh my gosh. First of all, this is crazy, because I am actually I think that this interview, I was going to follow it on the schedule and have it come out in a couple weeks. But I think, A, because you're so bubbly, B, because of what happened in Florida a couple days ago, I think my listeners need a smile. I think they need something uplifting. So I'm bringing it closer so we can get some reasons to smile in people's lives more quickly. I think it's urgent. But the girl who is on the podcast this week, her episode has had all sorts of crazy experiences too. So it's kind of weird that 2 in a row are just like everything that, like, what, you were rushed to a hospital? What, you were almost kidnapped? What, you were almost kidnapped again? Like, I feel like I've found 2 people with like the wildest lives ever. And I have you back to back.
I have crazier stories, but I don't think people would believe them, so I'm not going to share them.
Well, maybe you can go
Um,
and listen to Jessica's episode that's out this week, and then you can maybe find each other and talk about the crazy situations you've been in. But it's so interesting because even when you were setting up that story of what happened most recently when you were babysitting, like all I could think of was, first of all, it sounds like a scary movie, and second of all, I feel like you're feeding into what, like, the one of the only things that I can identify with as a fear, which is being in a house in the middle of nowhere. Like, drop me in the middle of the hood any day before you take me down some long wooded road into the middle of nowhere, because
yeah,
that I think is the scariest place to be. Like in the middle of
yeah.
the country, no, that's not relaxing. That's terrifying. Police can't get to me fast. Like there's nobody
I
else
mean,
to help me.
it's definitely scary. Like I remember one time I was 19 in college, and I was hanging out with this one guy, and he was going to bring me to some party, and he was driving through the woods, like, and I had no idea where I was. I thought I knew the town, but apparently not well enough. And
Yeah,
I asked him to turn around because it was freaking me out a little bit. He wasn't saying much, and he said,
yeah.
"What do you think I'm going to do? Kidnap you?" And I don't. He seems to be pretty nice because he married somebody soon after that, but it was too creepy for my taste.
You were like,
uh,
I'm not going through that again. Maybe.
no,
So let's turn around.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. So in these situations, I mean, you just quit your job, which for many people who are on the podcast, when they quit their job to start their new career, that's the scariest thing. But when you're about to do something scary and make a big scary decision, or, you know, aside from calling your little brother for help, which asking for help is really still great advice, but what are ways that you push past fear?
Um, I pray. I know that not everybody's religious, but what helps me is praying before I do that. I'll also give myself little mantras like I can do this, like I'm a big girl, like I'm like who are these people? What am I doing now? It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
they're not gonna be sleeping with me at night, you know. I try to get through it because I also have struggled with confidence in my self esteem. Not that I've had necessarily a reason to, but I tend to be the subdued figure among other situations. I don't like to be the leader.
Okay.
Um, so it's kind of weird for me to be doing this by myself, and I have to be the voice, and I have to push myself forward because that's not my nature, except for my relationship. Sorry, Anthony. My husband is
Her husband's
uh,
like, wait, what?
for a husband. Yeah. No, he's really good, but I try to push past it because I'm not going to grow if I don't push myself, and if I'm not going to push myself, I'm too stubborn to let somebody else push me, especially like in my journey. Like this is all me with with the support, the moral support of my friends. But
Mhm.
I like the fact that I'm doing this and I can call it mine.
I love that. And it's so interesting that you brought up your perceived, you know, struggles with confidence, because before we started chatting, you're like, okay, I assume that you're a good conversationalist and you're going to guide me through this or whatever. And I have had way more awkward conversations. So I was just like, when you said that, I'm like, okay, this could be a red flag. This could be a really awkward interview. But I felt like it's like I've known you for a long time, you know, I don't feel like it's been hard at all. And
I
then
feel the same way.
awesome. And then too, when you were saying like, oh, I don't want to seem conceited, but I, you know, really found my groove, you know, working with the senior citizens, like you shouldn't have to use a disclaimer. If you're awesome at that, be awesome. You don't have to like, I'm not conceited. I'm not full of myself. Like, but everyone, it's society. Like nobody, I mean, people hate Kanye because Kanye knows he's great and isn't afraid to say so. We all got to be better at getting like a dose of Kanye into our personalities, I think.
That's true. But minus some of the ignorance of him like bashing Taylor Swift, but
I said a
he,
dose. I didn't say adopt everything he does, but just the Kanye confidence, I think, is okay.
I think, yeah, you're right. Because like, even though he's short and he's not as attractive as like some other of his peers, like he carries himself where you're like, oh, I'm not gonna mess with him because he looks like he'd like come back at me. So I definitely get where you're coming from. I should probably adopt that philosophy. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Well, you're doing great, and I love that you're pushing through all of it, because like everything you said about how you're not going to grow if you don't push yourself and all of that is like the whole story behind this podcast. So you're being a perfect guest, perfect poster child of it. I love it.
Thank you.
So we kind of just gave some advice for, confidence. I'm wondering if there's any other lessons you've learned recently that you'd kind of like to share with our listeners, if there's any just life advice you would like to share, maybe something that you wish you would have known years ago, or just any kind of wisdom you'd like to impart.
This is kind of cliche, but my philosophy is everything happens for a reason. And it's not just the fact that, okay, yeah, this happened, whatever, let's move on. It's maybe something didn't happen for you because it wasn't supposed to, and now you're going to be moving on to something that's going to make you happier than what you would have been. So
sure.
if I fail in one area, I know that I'm going to excel in another. It's not the be all end all of the situation. You have to keep pushing past it. And the more you push past those obstacles, the more you're going to find your way, like a maze. And then you get to the end and you're like, here we are. Like, this is where I want to
be. I love that.
Thank you. I also think that this is random, but since we were talking about the elderly earlier, that you should visit the elderly, not just you, but younger people. I think that they should visit the elderly because they're very wise. You'll leave with something. It's not just you visiting them for their benefit. Like, every time I talk to an elderly person, I gain some little bit of wisdom, and I'm trying to build my wisdom up because my millennial friends are not all of them. Like,
you're gonna get angry texts after this interview.
Okay, the people that are millennials that are not my friends. Like, how you hear these stupid stories on Facebook and the news about them eating Tide Pods. Come on, like it's not candy.
Oh.
I mean, they did make a Tide Pod shot, and I heard it was pretty delicious, but it was like actual liquor, so I guess that doesn't count.
I'm going to Vegas this weekend. I might have to look into the Tide Pod shot. It sounds like a terrible idea, but
do it. Oh my gosh! If you do it, like, take a picture of it. You're gonna get like mad likes.
Oh my goodness! All right, we'll see. I'll consider it.
Yeah, let me know.
I will. That's great advice, and it's interesting that you prefaced it with I know this is cliche. It's so funny about cliches because, yeah, it's something that people say a lot, and then that kind of waters it down because people stop paying attention to what it really means. But when you think about it, people are saying it a lot for a reason, and so there's truth behind it. You wouldn't say something all the time if there wasn't any meaning behind it, or if it wasn't actually true, unless you're just like a liar. But
liars, they're great. No, but you're right, because like, if you think about it, when I said earlier the grass is always greener, everybody says it, but not everybody gets it. Like, it doesn't click. Like, okay, right. Yeah, I get it, the grass is greener, but what does that mean for me? Like, you have to put it into context in your own life, like in a relationship. In the book that I recommended, where did it go? I lost it. Oh. And maybe in another life, the grass was always greener for her on the other side. And again, not going to spoil the ending, but you kind of have to realize that on your side, you need to water the grass around you, and it'll be the way you want it to be.
Yeah, the grass is always greener wherever you water the grass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I love that. All right, so you've given me your book advice. Do you want to share any of the stories from your book?
Sure, I'll read a couple. I have to admit that before I was going to show the book, I tried to rip out all these Post-its so it looks cleaner. So it might be a little bit jumbled around.
Oh, don't worry about it. I love the well-loved look.
Yeah, it's worn with love.
Yes.
All right. So this is from the chapter When You're Ever Clever. It's basically self-explanatory, but I like the witty back and forth banter type stuff.
Sure.
So this is between me and my husband. It says, I admit that my husband helped teach me to become quicker when it comes to jokes. When I first met him, he was spewing puns and comebacks faster than Kim Kardashian's marriage to Chris Humphries. I was intimidated by this at first, but after a year or two of being with him, I inadvertently started picking up on timing and material. Good thing he doesn't like to read, though, so I know he won't ever see my confession. He would never let me forget it. I can have high energy and pent up frustrations from things that don't exist sometimes. And he likes watching wrestling and practicing his stupid moves on the less physically fortunate. So we like to wrestle sometimes to get some energy out. Anthony had me pinned down when his chain fell into my mouth, which he then proceeded to rip out. It got caught in my clenched teeth. Anthony said, "You almost broke my chain." I said, "You almost broke my mouth." He said, "Good, your mouth is cheaper." So that was one of them.
I like it. That's cute.
Thank you. They're like little stories like that you kind of like, you can, I didn't want to call this a bathroom reader because like I don't want you just to do it in the bathroom and like,
sure.
I don't know. So basically you can pick it up and read it wherever. Let's see. I have another one marked right here. It says, there was this coworker that I had at my assisted living job who was super out there. He even takes jokes super seriously. Anything could be made into a philosophical argument. I mean, he was highly intelligent, but the kind of intelligence that makes people question if the color blue was actually red, but we see it as a blue because the photosynthesizing protons reflecting against the cranial aorta or something. I just made that up. For all I know, that sentence could be a curse in genius or something. How do you say sorry in genius? You're right. Well, I was gathering people for a group that we have on Saturday mornings that a lot of people come to. It's relaxing and we get to catch up on the latest building gossip. I passed by this coworker in the hallway and he asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting people ready for crochet group." He said, "Well, that sounds like the worst idea ever." I said, "Well, what do you think that we should do instead?" He said, "Welding class." I said, "You're right. Crochet group sounds so horrible in comparison to senior welding classes with live flames and Parkinson's disease." Who walked away after that? I'll read. You want me to read one more?
Sure.
All right. It's probably about a page, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. A well-respected woman, my grandma, was buried in a beautiful sanctuary among some of our other family members. The memorial was beautiful. The stone was well thought out and included the entire family. The grounds were well kept. After the memorial and stone dedication, we went a little bit down the lane to see the graves of some famous ancestors. My Uncle Brian was eloquently giving us the history and explaining the life works of those that came before us, so we could be proud of where we came from, so we can use those facts to carry on the family legacy. My kids tagged along for the service. I knew it wasn't going to be too sad because she had died in 2007 and it was now 2017. My son Noah had a loose tooth that had been wiggling and refused to pull out for a month. He was usually too scared to have me pull out his teeth and preferred them to fall out on their own. Not this time. When he came up to me, he asked me to pull his tooth out. I happily obliged. He was being so brave. That's where I made my grave mistake. We were standing on top of my ancestor's grave. Then the blood came. He spat blood all over the ground, spewing red saliva all over the hollowed ground and the resting place of our influential and respected family. He then became squeamish from all the blood and proceeded to hurl stomach fluid and mouth blood all over our heritage. I'm not superstitious or anything, but I'm pretty sure spitting on someone's grave is a really bad omen.
I loved all three of them, and I think what's fantastic about them, and probably what you're hearing a lot of, is I think everyone can see pieces of their life in each part of it. You know, like the first one with the relationships, I could see strengths and weaknesses between my husband and I and can imagine something like that happen. Or the second one with the coworker, like you pretty much described my ex-boyfriend who had that whole like, well, what if the sky really looks green thing? And I just wanted to roll my eyes as you were reading that because I immediately thought of him and was just like, oh man, we all know that guy. And then yep. I think everyone either was or knew a kid who would just like let their tooth hang until the very end as opposed to pulling it. So, or just an awkward situation at the worst possible time and place. Everyone's been there yep. too. So those are fantastic.
what's even funnier though, in a way, is like my ancestors, they were prominent political figures, and like my uncle is running for Congress. He's an alderman, and he's there with his backers and the people that are running his campaign. And these people are watching my son spit over his mother's grave, and it's like people that were the first. I'm half black, by the way, but people that were the first black officials and important people that they helped start programs and stuff. And it was just, I was laughing, but I was so embarrassed at the same time. I was like laugh crying, like
Right.
I didn't know what to do.
That's all you can do. But like I
Yeah,
said, I'm sure even those people who we hold in such high regard have probably been in a situation like that, especially if they're parents. So
yeah, probably.
I love it. So where can, if we are intrigued by these ideas and want to read more, where can we find your book? And then where can we find you online if we want to see if you ever try the Tide Pod shot or just follow your adventures on social media or connect somewhere?
I'll have it connected on ifyouneedtosmile.com. I
Okay.
have my Twitter on there, my Facebook page. I do a blog. I try to write once every week, and I
Okay.
explain more of a, it's like a playful slash serious side of myself. Like I flip back and forth with
Okay.
like what's really going on, and then jokes that I thought of during the week that I wanted to elaborate on. I also have a mailing list you can subscribe to, or you can just shoot me an email from there. I'm pretty quick with responding, so if you have any questions, just let me know.
All right, I love that. Well, I'm really excited to see what else you do, and we'll definitely be following you everywhere in your stories and such. So, and I assume you were saying the feedback on Amazon you weren't getting as much. So, if someone's listening and they buy the book, they should leave you a review, right? Because that's what you're looking for. Okay,
Please. I, Basically, I want the reviews so I can go forward and like kind of tweak what people didn't understand and put it with things that they do. So that
okay.
way I can be more fluid so somebody else can be like, okay, well, I get it now, you know?
Sure. Okay, so you're not even just like begging for 5 stars to make your book look good. You want legit feedback so that book number 2 can be even better than book number 1. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
'cause I can't make people laugh if they don't understand what the heck I'm saying. So I need to know if they understand, you know?
Absolutely. That's very true. And that's awesome that that's your attitude because I know we kind of ribbed on millennials a little bit, but I think in our culture right now, talking about getting mad lights again, back to the Tide Pod shot, um, it can be
Oh
really
gosh.
easy to seek approval in stars or likes or follows or something. And so it's refreshing to hear someone say like, no, that's not what I want. I just want to know how I can make it better and make sure that I'm effective in my mission of making people smile, and they have to understand in order to smile. So that's perfect. I love it.
It kind of reminds me of like if somebody is beautiful on the outside but their inside suck, like it doesn't make the overall product a good thing. Whereas if somebody's plain or ugly looking but they have a great personality, it shines and it speaks for itself. Like you want to have that the goodness in the book or yourself or whatever it may be. Like the cover can be great or bad, but it doesn't matter. It's what you do with it.
Absolutely. Let's go right into another cliche that you can't judge a book by its cover, right?
Oh,
And it's
full of
what's
them
inside
tonight.
that counts.
Oh gosh. I'm like a walking cliche book. Like, oh gosh.
That's book 4 after the hangry
Book four.
one.
Cliches that you too much.
Good thing you quit your job because you've got a lot of books lined up to write now.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I need assistance. Call all assistance.
All right, yes. If you're looking for an assistant job, find Faith online. She needs your help. All right, so my last question I'm saving is my favorite for last. And it's interesting considering you told me a story from right around this age or right before this. But I always ask people if little Faith, 8 years old, could have a crystal ball and see into the future, everything that's happened from then to right now where you are. And then of course, you know that on March 3rd you'll be at that Barnes and Noble. You have the plans coming up that you can foresee the foreseeable future. On a scale of 1 to 11, how would you rate how excited you are about life? Or how would you rate how excited little Faith would be to see where you are and where you're about to go?
Honestly, I think it would be like an 11. I think I never expected this for myself. I was always ambitious when I was younger, but I kind of was thinking about being a secretary. I was writing a book, but it was like I couldn't follow the plot. So this small snippet thing's my style, but I never pictured the fact that I would first off start getting confident that I would find something of my own to do instead of working for somebody. I never thought that I would be on a podcast, which I didn't even know what that was back then, but I'm happy. I feel good about my life and the choices that I've made, and just need to work on the hangry part because that part's got to go.
I have these cute little tins that you can put almonds in. You just need to get a bunch of those and keep them in your like pockets and purse, and that way, you know, in a pinch, you at least can have almonds or something small. Just carry a lot of snacks.
I can't. I'm allergic, but I'll have to do like, I don't know, beans and chocolate covered beans or something. That's protein.
There you go. Or maybe little protein bars or something.
Just I try to I'll like Rice Krispies or something. I'll just try to quickly pop something, but I've been so busy lately. I haven't been eating. I've been forgetting, or I haven't had time. So I need to stock up on snacks. You're right.
It's a good idea. I think you probably noticed that when you were getting your technical situation figured out, I was like putting tons of Greek yogurt into my face.
You're pretty slick. I didn't catch that.
Oh, okay. I ate like a kind of ridiculous, embarrassing amount of Greek yogurt while you were setting up your phone.
You should have seen me before I got on this. Like I was shoveling a salad. I was telling the kids to be quiet. I was telling my husband to go find the headphones. Oh, gosh.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we both were fed and in a good mood and everything worked out.
Yep.
I just want to thank you so much for, you know, your personality, everything that you've shared with me, everything you're sharing with the world and everyone who reads your book. Like I said, we need so many reasons to smile right now. It's really important and urgent, and I appreciate that so much. And I'm so inspired by you because I'm writing my first book right now too. And so knowing that it's going well for you, I might ask you for some tips and advice at some point. But seeing someone else be successful is so inspiring, so that we know that, you know, if someone else can do it, we can too. So I appreciate you sharing.
Definitely go for it. I mean, I can help you cut through all the nonsense, and I already know the best website you can use and everything. So definitely do that, because just why not? Well, you have the idea, you might not want to do it in the future, so try it.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it off the bucket list. Well, thank you so much, Faith, and hopefully a lot of people check out your book because it sounds amazing.
Thank you. I hope they do too.
I hope that our conversation made you smile once or twice, and if it did, you should go and check out her book. Again, that's going to all be in the show notes, so make sure you go check those out. Make sure you also enter to win so that you can win a copy of If You Need to Smile by Faith Lucille. And I just hope, usually I'm trying to inspire, and I think there was plenty of inspirational content in this interview, but I think, like I said, it's important that we all laugh, and here are some good reasons to laugh for you. So head over to www.mandiem.com/episode 143. That's where you will find how to find Faith, Faith Lucille, I guess not Faith in Life, although I hope you find that on my website as well. That's where you'll also be able to enter the contest, the giveaway I keep mentioning. I would love to send Faith your address so she can send some books to you. I would also love it if you would subscribe so that you are notified of every episode when it comes out, or even have it automatically downloaded. I would love if you share this. Again, we need to smile, so think of some people who could use a smile and forward this on to them so that they can enjoy it too. I also would love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes. Unlike Faith, although I do value your feedback, and if you have some good feedback for me, I would definitely take it to heart. But I am more asking because I want iTunes to suggest this to more people. So if you can do that, I would really appreciate it. It would be like a hug from you to me, and it would be really fantastic. So please do that. Also, if you know somebody who has a great story, has made some bold moves outside of his or her comfort zone, send them to www.mandiem.com/guest. That is where they can put in all of their information and share their story with me. And if I like it, I will get back to them or you and schedule a time to chat so we can share your story with some more people, or your friend's story, whoever's filling it out. Anyway, as always, I hope you had a great time. I hope you smiled. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.
The clock is ticking.